with October being Domestic Violence Awareness Month, I have a guest today. Her name is Karen Wright-Chisolm, and she has a podcast. Let me start off by saying that. And for you to get the entire story that she has to tell, and it's a lot, you need to go to her podcast. So I'm going to start off by saying that I want everybody to go to her podcast. It's called A Centralized Moment. The focus is you. A centralized moment. The focus is you. And if you go to like the first episode, it's going to knock your socks off. That's all I'm saying. But I feel so blessed to have her here talking with me today. Hey, Karen.
Hi, Yvette. Thank you for having me.
Oh, no, thank you for making the time to come and chat with us because, domestic violence awareness, it's big. And as I know, especially they're saying now during these COVID times
Right,
that it's even bigger because people are having to shelter in place at
right,
home with, in some cases, people who are abusing them.
right.
And so if ever there was a time for this conversation, it is definitely now.
Yeah.
Now, gosh, I'm so excited to have you here.
Not a problem. And
um,
you know what you just tapped on something, and I've had several segments that I've done, and we've talked about for such a time as this. For such a time as this, and the fact that we know that since COVID has started, there have been so many victims that are, like you said, stuck in place, possibly with their abusers, not only to spouses versus spouse as abusers, but also the children that are in the homes with these abusers, that when they get frustrated, they take out their frustration not only on their spouse, but they take it out on their children as well.
right,
And they suffer, because they have no outlet. And since COVID has been since COVID has started, the places that they could normally go have been so overcrowded because of the numbers of people that are going through these situations. South Carolina by itself has ranked among the top 10 states for almost the last 15 years. At one point, we were number 5 in the United States. We were number 5 in the United States of women being victims of domestic violence, either killed or just being victims. And those numbers fluctuated between 2016 and 2017, that we were number 1, we were number 5, and now we're under number 10, but we're still up there. And
right,
the numbers haven't really dropped, because now since COVID has hit, like I said, the numbers are starting to rise again. So the places where they could have gone to seek refuge, they're either overcrowded, or they were forced to close down because of COVID. And so the victims have nowhere to go. And
right,
that was, one of the reasons why I started with the Centralized Moment Focuses You podcast, because I felt like women were out there and they needed, even if they couldn't get out the home, maybe they could take the time to, if they had to sneak and get on their telephone, go in the bathroom and get on their phone, they can come on the Zoom and have some woman there that were experiencing some of the same things that they were experiencing. And if they could not do anything but pray with them, pray for them, that was the motive for trying to set up that platform where women can call and get some refuge, get some encouragement, get some prayers, and get some women praying for them and sharing their stories with others. Because I found out, as a domestic violence, and I don't say victim anymore because I'm still here, I say as a domestic violence survivor,
Right.
As a domestic violence survivor, I found that, the more I talk about it, the more it helps me to heal. So when I share my story, hopefully it helps somebody else to heal, but it helps me to heal because I'm sharing that story with others. And when I started telling my story, it took me about 27 years to really tell a story. I lived with this story for 27 years. I never told it. My family members didn't know. I never told a story. And when I remarried and I met up with some people that I knew were talking about me writing this book with them, and I told my story with some other female veterans. And before the book was scheduled to come out, because I hadn't told my husband, I had to tell him.
Oh, wow.
I hadn't told I have two daughters. I never told them. I had to tell them. And so what I did, I just put a copy of the book in my daughter's hands and I told them to read it. And I told them to read it. And it's just, whew. And as I went on and started telling my story, you would be surprised of the amount of people that came up to me and say, wow, your story is my story. But they never told it. They never told, but then, they feel comfortable once they hear me tell it, it'll help them to heal. And people look at me and they say, well, you're so successful, you're doing this and you're doing that. But just like it said, you see me, but you don't know my story. And just because we put on the facade, I had this mask because we used to wear the masks. And we said, now we're taking off the mask, that we're not going to be silent anymore about it. But because of the impact that it has on so many people's lives as women, I want to help them. And so, like right now, it's amazing. And I was telling Yvette earlier, I've told a story so many times, and sometimes I think I'm strong and I've gotten past it, but then sometimes the tears still flow because it's so emotional, when I talk about it, that, that it's hard to tell a story sometimes. But the more I tell it, the better I get.
I can imagine too that there were people that were already going through this
That's right.
prior to COVID, but
Yeah.
now there are probably people that are experiencing it for the first time
Right.
because they're having to be in close quarters with people that maybe they didn't realize they had it in them. And I know everybody thinks that it can't happen to me,
Oh yeah.
and then when it happens, it's
You,
like,
mhm.
oh my gosh.
Oh my, what is this? What is this? What is this? And and I talk about it because I said, now, when we were growing up in the neighborhood,
Mhm.
we saw domestic violence, but we didn't know that that's what it was.
Mm.
Growing up, I was born into a large family. It's my mother had 8 kids,
Oh.
and every weekend in the neighborhood, we would be in the neighborhood, and if it wasn't my daddy coming home after working for the week and getting intoxicated, and they figure, well, we got to celebrate, it's the weekend. But it never failed. Every Friday night, we could know that there was going to be some chaos in the neighborhood because somebody either across the street or down the street or in our house was going to get intoxicated and start beating on their wives.
Oh, wow.
And we would sit on the porch and watch, and we thought it was funny. We would sit on the porch and watch it, and we would laugh and laugh until the ambulance came, and the wife already beat the husband in his head to get him off of her. He's bleeding, the ambulance is there, and we're laughing. We're thinking it's Friday Night Live. We're thinking it's a joke. We're thinking it's a joke, and we hiding and peeking as kids. But then we realize then the wives would have to come to each other's house for refuge until he settled down and went to sleep. And went to sleep. And we did this through our neighborhood. I mean, and the families that were in the neighborhood, we're still friends today because we knew what we went through. And what we were told, what goes on in this house stays in this house. But it was nothing but abuse. And then when I got to be older and started experiencing it, we didn't know what it was. But that was the same thing that was happening. And because we are taught in church and Sunday school that you marry somebody, you stay with them till death do you part. And I'm, a Christian girl, and I'm thinking if he gets upset and he hit on me, and I'm like, oop, and he's like, well, apologizing is not going to happen again. And the time and time and time it happens, and then you keep saying you're trying to make this marriage work. I don't want to leave because the word says you stay with them through good times, through bad times. But I tell people right now, there's nothing in the word that says stay with them and let them kill you, because that's what's going to happen. Nothing says stay with them until they kill you, because I knew that if I did not get out of the situation that I was in, I would not be alive today to be telling this story, because he would have killed me. He would have killed me. So thanks be to God that I got out. And that's why I try to encourage others that you got to get out. I never would tell somebody to leave your husband, but if you're going through something like that, and if he doesn't want to get help, he doesn't want to seek help to help himself to stop with you, then you got to think about your life, your safety, and the safety of your children if you have any. Because I've seen so many different cases of not, young girls, being killed in domestic violence situations. I had a girlfriend that had a 17-year-old granddaughter that was, no, 15-year-old granddaughter was killed by her 17-year-old boyfriend about 3 years ago. And I'm like, where does that happen? But and that's why I focus so much on this, because I know that we have to educate. We have to educate. We have to keep talking about it. We have to keep preaching about it in hopes that somebody is listening, because I had someone tell me that, well, my husband doesn't hit me, but he verbally abused me. And I'm like, one is no better than the other.
Right.
One is no better. And matter of fact, I believe verbal abuse is worse, because I say if he hit you or he put a scar on you, over time that scar heals. But if it's in your mind, that will stay with you for the rest of your life, or stay with you until you get strong enough to get some help to release that, to get past that. And if you continually stay there and he's continually beating you down, telling you you're this, you're not going to be this, your self-esteem will never be built up. So I just, I don't know.
Now, what gave you the courage to leave?
I had went through that. I was going back and forth through that over a 4.5 year period. Every time it would happen, sometimes I would leave and go to maybe to my mom's house or a friend's house or whatever. And I would always go back, because he'd come and say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to do it. It won't happen again. And then I'd go back. I did that for 4.5 years. And sometimes I would dread Fridays when he got off work, because I knew what was going to happen. I knew what was going to happen. And I tried to sometimes just protect my kids from any of it. So I would take the brunt of it to kind of like not let them see it. And I'd kind of like try to calm him down, try to sober him up or whatever, or just try to stay out of his way until whatever he had going on was over. And I realized that, after the fact, that I knew that he drank, he was an alcoholic, but he was a druggie as well. But I did not know how much of a drug victim he was, because I found out later that he was actually using really strong, heavy drugs that I did not know. And I went through that time after time of things happening. And finally, one morning, and I never forget the day, I say God spoke to me and told me, this is your day. You got to get up. And I got up out of my bed and I made two phone calls. And one was to my brother that lived in the neighborhood. And I told him, I said, I need you guys to come and help me to move my stuff. And we got together, and I had just dropped him off to work at 8 o'clock that morning. And I knew that I had to be out of that house before he got off at 3:30. So I called my brothers, I called the landlord, I told him what was happening. I needed to leave. And we actually packed up a whole house. And at 2:30 p.m. that afternoon, we were pulling out of the driveway with everything that I wanted to take with me, and we left. And once he got home and turned the key and the house was empty, I guess he realized then that I was gone. So he came to my mother's house is where I was, and my sister was there. And he came to the door and he demanded to see me, and she said she does not want to see you. He came back for 2 weeks, and every time he came to the door, she shielded me from him and said she doesn't want to see you. So he finally got the message and left after 2 weeks. And that was when I filed for divorce. So this,
Wow.
God be glory.
Wow. 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 That, well, and so he didn't give you any problems with trying to get a divorce or anything.
No, because I guess after that point, I guess he knew when I didn't come right back like I had normally come back, that I wasn't coming back this time.
Mm-hmm.
So, because I would take the kids and we would go, never took the furniture or never really cleared out the house. So I guess he knew this time that it was the last time. And he actually moved away and went to New York and was living in New York. And he didn't contest the divorce. And I was single with two kids for a 9-year period. I went into the military because I think I had to do something to support my kids. So I went into the military at 31 years old.
Oh, wow.
And in an effort to provide a life for them, and went into the military and started getting my life back into a normalcy. It was a struggle because, even going into the military, when you have your TIs and they're men, and a lot of times the yelling and the screaming would send
Bring you back.
flashbacks.
Mm-hmm.
So it took me a while to get accustomed to that, but mentally I knew that that was just a temporary situation. And I think because I was older going into the military, I was able to deal with it better than if I had gone in there at 17 years old and hearing the yelling and the screaming. And, my TI used to tell me, don't come in here thinking you somebody's mama, but I knew that I had to, because they were like 17, 18, 19 years old. And here I am, 31 years old, coming into an environment where they're teaching you discipline and everything. And I'm like, so I got through that because I knew once I had passed that stage, I was not going to have to deal with that it was just temporary for the basic training part of it.
Mm-hmm.
And I ended up doing 27 years, 8 months, and 14 days in the United States Air Force.
Wow. Oh
Hired
my
at the top
gosh.
of the enlisted rank as a Chief Master Sergeant, and which is the highest enlisted rank that only 1% of people make that rank in the military. So to God be the glory.
Great things he has done. What are you
Oh, yes, he
talking
has.
about? Oh my
Yes,
gosh.
he has. Yes, he has. So
Wow.
I picked myself up and sometimes I think about it, but I know that I'm more than a conqueror at this point. So yeah.
Wow.
So that's my thing to, motivate others.
You mentioned how when you were younger in church and how they lead you to think that you have to stay in these relationships, you have to stay in this marriage because you made a vow before God.
Mm-hmm.
Do you feel like the religious part of church has any hand in it? Because I can't say that I've heard much in church about domestic violence,
Domestic violence.
but then you hear I've heard stories about pastors who beat their wives, and it's
Yeah.
like,
Yeah.
wow,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah. Because they're human. They're human people. And, just because they're pastors doesn't mean that they don't have skeletons in their closet, and doesn't mean that they don't do the human things that we do. And as a matter of fact, and it's strange that you should say that, because, just like I say, for such a time as this, I know that um, everything has been shut down, and God has put us in this position where um, we can't go places, we can't do things. And for such a time as this, it has allowed me an opportunity to dwell in the Word. And in reading some of the scriptures in the Bible, you'll read about some of the things about how they had more than one wife, and things were happening
Yeah.
in the Bible. But it's amazing that preachers don't ever speak on those topics like that. They preach on the feel good things, and nobody touches on those kind of things to for people to get some kind of refuge from it.
Right.
If someone goes to church and they got something heavy on their heart about things going on in their homes, and nobody feeds them with any kind of scripture, any kind of Bible, they won't get help that way. They won't get help. So you just gave me an idea that maybe groups like mine and groups like yours might need to take an opportunity to do something for church people. You understand what I'm saying?
Oh
For
yeah.
church people, to give them some of that, because you won't, a lot of churches, you won't get it. You won't get it because the preachers are not going to talk about it like we'll talk about it. They're not gonna give it. I haven't seen it. I haven't.
Sounds like another book. Sounds like another book. Have a book club, have the
That's
book
right.
ready for
That's
them.
right. That's right. That's right.
You have a group that you meet with on Zoom. Now, is it a closed group? Is it open? How do you run that?
Okay. Normally, it's not a closed group. I send out emails, and I used to send. I have flyers each month, each Sunday that we have a topic. We send out the flyers, and I use my contact list, and I'll use people that are friends, and they put it out on their email. I put it on Facebook. It's been on Facebook, and all they have to do is register, and then they're able to come on. And all we ask is that at least when you register and you come on, that you have a name on your Zoom. The group has grown from 20 women at start to right now we're up to almost 75, 80 women on a Sunday evening.
Oh, wow. That's awesome.
So
So how can people, how can we do this? How we got anybody that's interested? How can we get them involved?
okay, if you're interested in coming on a podcast, you could email me at CentralizedMomentLLC at gmail.com. Again, that's CentralizedMomentLLC at gmail.com.
Awesome. Well, thank you again so
Oh,
much for
thank
taking time out of
you.
your schedule. We're definitely going to spread the word. We need ladies to know that, they can do it. They can muster up that courage, and granted, it may not happen immediately. Like you said, it took you years
That's right.
to
That's
get
right.
out, and then even longer to tell your story.
That's right.
So, but there is hope. I mean, you went from that to just blowing them away in the military.
Thank you.
So, I mean, that right there is a testimony and a testament to the fact that if you leave, it's not the end of the world,
Pain of the world.
and you can do this. And if
That's
it
right.
takes jumping in on one of these podcasts to get some strength, some motivation, some prayer, some something,
That's right.
that is my desire for all of you out there listening. If you need the help, please don't don't hesitate to try to get the
That's
help,
right.
because there are people out here like Karen that are ready, willing, and able to help you get through and have your breakthrough.
Right. And can I say one thing? And my motto is never underestimate the power of someone else's struggles unless you've walked in their shoes. And because I know you deserve life. You deserve life. You deserve life. And don't let anybody take that away from you prematurely, because God has everyone here for a purpose. He has you, everyone here has a purpose. So, and your purpose is not to let somebody take anything away from you. You're God's creature. He made us. You're God's child. So no one has the power and authority to do anything to you that you don't want done to you. So, you know, we say pray for them. Yeah, we pray for them, but we gotta just let them go. Sometimes we gotta let them go, because you're blocking your blessings. Don't block your blessings. God has something out there in store for you. Because one of the things that I did was I've been through the fire, but I don't smell like smoke.
It's a good thing we don't look like what we've been through.
That's what you talking about. That's right. That's right. Thank you so much, Yvette. Thank you. I don't know. You don't know how much this means to me to be able to share and tell a story.
Oh, anytime, anytime. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.